So one of the most hyped and even controversial games that is coming out this year is officially here. Well, at least kind of. The server slam is here at least, but the game is coming out in a matter of a couple weeks. The interesting thing about Marathon is it's Bungie's new game, and Bungie is one of the biggest developers of all time. They're the creators of Halo, the creators of Destiny, and of course, now and also in the past, the creators of Marathon. And there's this idea similar to other games that we've looked at, like for example, Arc Raiders in the Finals or the GTA games that we recently looked at, that the Bungie games are all interconnected. Now in the past, the Bungie developers have come forth and said, whoa, everyone calm down. These are not all one and the same. However, what if I told you that there is a bunch of evidence supporting that these games might actually be far more connected than we are led to believe? And in fact, there might even be something much bigger that some people are calling the Bungieverse. Now, to understand this, we first have to understand what's currently going on with the Marathon story, the game that is just coming out now, because it has an incredibly detailed past. Now, if you don't believe what I am talking about here, what you are looking at here is the Marathon story page. People started putting information on this website about the Marathon story back in 1995. It is now 31 years later, and people are still contributing to the story. It is one of the deepest lores of a video game I have ever seen. Now, for the sake of this video, we're not going to be diving that in depth with this, but I am going to give you a little bit of a background, a very brief background on what this story actually is. So what is Marathon? Marathon is actually a spaceship. And this spaceship is made out of a moon that was a moon of Mars. Now, Marathon, the original game, takes place in the year 2794. However, the spaceship, or the moon ship, was created 300 years before that. And there was a reason for it. Basically, there was a giant war going on between Martians and humans, and they wanted to accomplish interplanetary travel. So they stole Mars's moon, made a spaceship out of it, and launched it into a solar system known as Tau Ceti, specifically looking for a planet that they believe to be habitable, known as Tau Ceti 4. This is the planet that we are on in the current Marathon game, but we will come back to that. So 300 years after the Marathon was launched, it reaches Tau Ceti 4, and all of the humans on board are woken up out of stasis, and when they are being invaded, specifically by this race of bugs that have been brainwashed by a greater being or greater race known as the Four. Now, you wake up as a UESC, or United Earth Space Council security officer, and your job is to stop this invasion. And you do so with the help of a couple of AI on board the Marathon, one in particular named Durandal. Now, to make a long story short, it turns out Durandal actually reached out and let the Four know that the humans were coming and let them on board, allowing them to invade. You, the security officer, end up stopping the Four, but in doing so, allow Durandal's AI to go free, and now he is running rampant. That's the end of the first game. So the next two Marathon games are all about the AI, Durandal. And basically, Durandal wants to live forever, past the inevitable full-on death of the universe. This is where the Marathon tagline comes from, "Death will set you free," which ties directly into the new Marathon game. So in the new Marathon game, it picks up after the humans on board the Marathon have started to try to colonize Tau Ceti 4. In fact, it takes place almost exactly 100 years after, in 2894 or 2893, 99 to 100 years after. Now, we don't know what has happened yet at this point. It's all a mystery. But what we do know is as the humans went onto the planet, essentially everything went wrong. And that is kind of what we're trying to figure out in the new game. What happened on Tau Ceti 4? Was there another set of AI, another set of aliens? What exactly happened to this planet? You see, the Marathon was created by companies that funded it, like Cyber Acme, New Caloric, and Traxxas, who are actually the groups that you do missions for within the game. But you do not play as a human. You play as something called a runner, which is kind of like a robot that your sentience gets put into. Hence why they say death will set you free. Your mind is in the runner, and the only way for your mind to go out of that runner is to die. So that is the background of the new game. You are a runner on Tau Ceti 4 trying to get to the bottom of what this planet is and what happened and what was the mystery that happened to all the humans on this planet. So that's the backstory of Marathon, and specifically the new Marathon. But how does Halo and Destiny fit into this Bungieverse if it is truly a real thing? Let's start with Halo. So where this gets interesting is this theory of Halo being a part of Marathon started at the very beginning. And in fact, when Halo first came out, some people thought that this was basically Marathon 4, the next game or iteration of Marathon. And the immediate references were inevitable. In the Halo logo, the Halo Combat Evolved logo, the Marathon logo is right in the middle of it. In the game, the Marathon logo can be found on ships, found on uniforms, found everywhere throughout the game. This is going to come up a couple of times, but the other thing is the AI. I mentioned in Marathon, the AI's name is Durandal. Well, in Halo, there is a different AI that goes by the name of Cortana. So how are they related? Well, in Marathon, as you interact with the computers, Durandal will tell you a story about the French king Charlemagne. Now in this story, Charlemagne had a sword named Joyous. His nephew, named Roland, had another sword named Durandal. And then one of his main commanders, who went by the name of Ogier, I think is how you say it, had a sword by the name of Cortana. In other words, they had a sword or a tool that they used like AI. One was Durandal and one was Cortana. There's also other similarities, like the way that Cortana's AI is written is very similar to Durandal's, and there's some crossover between the stories having massive similarities with different names. But again, those can be put up to just similarities, or maybe just some Easter eggs, if you will. So immediately there is this crossover, yet at the same time, Bungie themselves have said that they are not in the same universe. But if you know Marathon, Marathon has multiverses. And in fact, the third Marathon game has 7 different timelines in one game. And yes, it is very, very confusing. So just because they're not in the same universe doesn't mean they're not connected. And this was proven. So a man by the name of Alex Seropian, who was one of the original creators of both Halo and Marathon, said this. I don't think you ever find that out, but it's the same character. God, we've never said this before, but it's completely obvious. Now, this is where things get confusing. So they're in a different universe, but at the same time, they're the same character. And also the two games take place about 250 years apart. Okay, so to understand this, let's set up a timeline. So this timeline, the Bungieverse timeline, if you will, would all start out in the year 1994 with one of their earlier games known as Pathways into Darkness. So in 1994, aliens come to Earth and warn the humans that a god in the Yucatan Peninsula is gonna wake up underneath the pyramids there. When the US military goes underneath the pyramids, there is an alien race known as the Yarrow. The Yarrow also exist within Marathon. Now, the Yarrow eventually end up disappearing after their war with something that is, again, a huge thing in the Marathon universe by the name of, oh boy, Working Cacador? Working Cacador. We're gonna go with that. Anyway, by the end of the original Marathon trilogy, this is kind of like the main big bad that Durandal is wanting to avoid. Now, if you're continuing with this timeline, we get to the year 2552, and this is when the events of Halo actually take place. As we mentioned, that kind of war with the aliens that causes the events of the entirety of the Halo franchise. And then we have Marathon on Tau Ceti, starting out in the year 2794, and then continued on in the current story that we have in 2894. Now, after this, we don't know an exact date is when we get into Destiny. Now, this is way more obvious. This is by far the most obvious connection between any of the games. Marathon and Destiny are absolutely intertwined. If you go to the third and final Marathon game, the final lines in the text are, "I know who you are Destiny." And of course, Destiny is named Destiny. Also within Destiny, there is a group of weapons known as Mida. Mida is one of those companies that we talked about in Marathon before that funded all of this space exploration. And one of the weapons that we find in Destiny that goes by the name of the Mida mini tool. Now this is the audio log associated with the weapon. November 17th, 2472. Strauss is gone. Whole sky alight as his ship set off. I might be the last miter survivor on Mars. The gun detected teleports yesterday and I had to move camp. Cannot shake the fear that they will send battle roids. Even this AI marvel couldn't save me. This is, by the way, a direct description of what happens with Mida in the Marathon lore. Strauss was kind of like one of the leaders of Mida. And the date that is given in this description lines up with the date that this happens in the Marathon lore. This isn't a coincidence. This is the direct tie-in between the two. And just to be clear, this is all just a theory, especially with the loose tie-ins of Halo and the logo being found there and the tie-in with the AI. It's a theory. But this part isn't a theory. That quote from Alexander Seropian specifically stating that both Master Chief and the security officer from Marathon are the same character. This goes back to how Bungie designs their games. I want you to think about it for a second. All of Bungie's games, every single one of them, you play as a silent protagonist who is led by an AI. In Halo, you have the silent Master Chief who is led by Cortana. In Marathon, you have the silent security officer who's led by Durandal. In Destiny, you have the Guardian that is led by the Ghost. You are the Guardian. You are Master Chief. You are the security officer. And you are Destiny. Meanwhile, Bungie, they are the AI. They are taking you through the story. They are Durandal, they are Cortana, or they are the Ghost. But you, the player, the one with the controller in their hands, is the hero, all of which have very similar qualities. And Marathon, the new game that is coming out now, ties it all together. Because once again in this game, you take the shell of a robot and you inhabit that body. You once again become that silent protagonist and become that hero. Now, the first time I heard this theory, it was from a fellow YouTuber by the name of Hidden Xperia. He makes incredible Destiny, Bungie, and now Marathon lore videos. But it's a theory called the Eternal Hero Theory. And it comes down to one sole idea. And that is that maybe, yes, we are correct here, and that the Bungieverse is truly a thing, spanning not decades, but centuries, in each of them having different heroes, whether that be a security officer on the Marathon, whether that be Master Chief in a Halo ring, or whether that be the Guardian at the tower. And that's the cool thing that this theory does, is yes, there is these definite tie-ins between Marathon, the logo being found in Halo, the Mida company being in both Marathon and Destiny, but the hero, the character in the game, the one similarity between all of them, the thing that Alex Seropian said that said both characters are the same, the thing that makes it possible is the real hero, the eternal hero, is you.